All right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. Honorable Geoffrey Wandeto is still here with me, Member of Parliament for Tetu. Honorable Felix Odiwuor, Member of Parliament for Langata, is here. We're talking about the state of the nation of some sorts, matters, politics, and everything in between. We're moving into the Hustlers Fund in just a bit, but let's see what you're saying on feedback at Trevor Mbiji at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. You can talk about any topic that we have here. Let me squeeze in just maybe 2 or 3 of them really quick, and then get into the conversation on the Hustlers Fund. Engineer Lazaro says the law governing political parties act is very clear. Wetangula did what would have been done by any sycophant around the nation. The remaining option is judiciary to interpret, or else we declare judiciary as well incompetent. Okay. Let's see what else you're saying here. Kinyo Mushoki says Speaker Wetangula pronouncements were expected. The 14 members of parliament had already declared on the floor of the House that they no longer want to be associated with Azimio. All right. Let's now talk about, there's one more here. Evans Wanyela, what is happening in the National Assembly, Senate, and the Executive is none other than rewarding loyalists. Instead of debating on serious issues, our legislators are fighting on who's the majority and who's the minority. Engineer Lazara again says, why control of parliament is very crucial to the ruling coalition. The president would like to see the controversial names of his cabinet nominees sail through despite their questionable education background and court cases. We'll talk about the cabinet nominees in just a bit. But now let's talk about the Hustlers Fund. And Jalas, I'll start with you on this. You were quoted as asking the president to let members of parliament handle this fund. What was your argument for that?
Oh, okay. Number one, first, who is a hustler? Yeah. Let's start there. Who is a hustler and who is eligible for this fund? And even before we go further, we already have so many funds around. We have the Uwezo Fund, and the Uwezo Fund has been going to the youths out there to have their enterprises going on. And also we have the Women Enterprise Fund, the Youth Enterprise Funds. There's a lot of funds. There's a lot of funds now we'll be having the Hustlers Fund. Now, the reason why I was saying we need to be in charge of these funds is during the campaigns, we actually interacted with these people more, and we know them more better because of how we were campaigning. Either you are meeting a women group somewhere, you're meeting a youth group somewhere, you're meeting these organized groups. You'd find car wash. The car wash groups have also come up. You find Mama Mboga have their group there. So we already know who these hustlers are. Yeah. From the definition of Kenya Kwanza's campaign, ilikuwa ni Mama Mboga, mtu wa boda boda, kutoka hapa chini, tukileta huku juu. So if it's kutoka huku chini, kuleta huku juu, we already know who we are talking about. And these are the people who helped us in our campaigns. Like I had so many meetings in Langata. I had meetings with the people from car washes, the Mama Mbogas, Wamama Wakufua, youth groups, all of them. And a big shout out to one of my best groups from South Sea. It's called Mbogi Mboka. It's also a group of young people, hustlers doing that thing. I think those are the guys who are the true hustlers. And if that money is put into another group who do not even know these people, itapotea. We need to take charge of this Hustlers Fund as members of parliament because we know these people where they are. We know them by their names. We know that huyu ndio ukipatia hiyo pesa. If you give this person, if you put this money in the hands of these people, you'll be able to follow for it. If it's, did you guys, is it a grant or was it, is it a loan? That is also another thing that we need to come to that to know, because when the Uwezo Fund was a loan, yeah, and very few youth groups have been able to even take it back and or repay their loan. So we have to take charge of this money as members of parliament, so that we are able to be accountable for it. Okay. Because we know these people by name, their homes. Kama ni loan, you'll follow them, yeah, and they make sure that they actually repay it so that another hustler somewhere can also gain. And also another question that I wanted also my comrade here to answer is, how did we get to 50 billion? Because I hear it's 50 billion. How did we get to that? How did we compute the number of hustlers and know that, you know what, if we have it at 50 billion, we are okay. Budgets have not even been passed. We don't even have a budgets committee or things like that. We're still at 50 billion. So, but a Hustlers Fund, good idea. Number one, very, very good idea. Put the legislatures to be in charge because we know who they are. That's my submission on this.
Waneto, do you agree with that approach?
Before I agree or disagree with what Jarango is saying, Trevor, now that we have settled the matter of majority and minority, and even here on this show, I believe the matter is now firmly settled. And Jalas and I and yourself have made a ruling that Kenya Kwanza is now the majority. Allow me to take this early opportunity before I move to the Hustler Fund to congratulate Kimani Ichung'wah on his election as majority leader, Owen Baya as a deputy majority leader, Silvana Sosoro as a majority whip, and Naomi Wako as a deputy whip. And also on the other side, congratulate the minority of Pio Wadai as a leader of minority, Robert Bui as a deputy leader of minority, Junet Mohammed, fairly vocal and a good legislator as minority whip. I'm sure he's going to do a good job. And my sister Sabina Chege as deputy minority whip. So we congratulate and we really ask them to go on and serve this country with diligence and do what they need to do as per, the standing orders and as per the Constitution of Kenya. Coming to the Hustler Fund, Trevor, the Hustler Fund was something at the heart of the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto, because from very, very early days, His Excellency the President, when he was campaigning, started talking about hustlers and about the whole bottom-up approach. So this became a very, very center stage. And Kenya Kwanza government was voted in primarily because of their promise, to hustlers. So to respond to what Jalas is saying, and he's raising some valid issues, because in this country we have had funds in the past, and most of them have had mixed performance. So it is very, very important that we do not get it wrong, on the Hustlers Fund. And I'm looking forward to seeing obviously the policies and the mechanisms of how the fund is going to be operationalized. As a trained person in finance, I'll be scrutinizing to ensure that that this does not go into the same trap that we saw the Women Enterprise Fund, the Youth Enterprise Fund going, where a lot of people borrowed money with no intention to pay, or the money was not, the vetting process was not well done, and in some other cases, some of the groups were not given the necessary education to ensure that the projects that they were doing were, were basically viable. So 3 things here come to mind. One is sustainability. We have to think, how do we create a fund that is sustainable? I believe this should be a revolving fund that helps people, and the money comes back and helps more people, and then we can be able to grow it over time. The next issue, the second point, is why 50 billion? And this was a figure put in the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, and I believe 50 billion is not even enough. This is actually just seed capital. As a government, as we repair the economy, maybe this is money that should be increased. In Teto alone, I estimate that I have upwards of 15,000, 20,000 unemployed or underemployed people who can be good beneficiaries of this Hustlers Fund. So it's very, very important that that we ensure that this fund works. It is the real hope that Kenyans have been waiting for, and if we are to get our people from bottom up, we need to ensure that access to affordable capital, access to affordable credit, is something that is available. And the third issue is, how then do we administer the Hustlers Fund? There are many ways. And you could basically give it directly to the groups, the same way we did for Wezo and the same way we did for Youth Enterprise Fund. But there's also an indirect way where you capitalize maybe certain local financial institutions. It could be a local SACCO, let's say a dairy farmer SACCO. And basically, you will give this farmers or SACCO maybe 20 million shillings to then on lend to the at a reduced interest rate to the farmers, and I see this could be a very good complementary mechanism, because then we use the existing financial access structures to then administer this Hustlers Fund. But we are here to see the regulations, and we'll be happy to basically give our contribution as finance experts, on how we can ensure that this fund really works, becomes sustainable, and creates the real impact that it is supposed to create, which is basically lifting our people, who are right at the bottom, and starting to bring them up, in the economic ladder.
Okay, Jalas, I see you have a reaction there. I want us to talk about two more other topics: GMOs and the fight against graft.
Not really. You see, for Hustlers Fund, us in Azimio, we are just waiting to see how it was going to be implemented. It was not in our agendas, and so we are waiting for the structures, the regulations around it, so that we can know what they had in mind. As ours was very simple.
Okay.
It's 6,000 bob every month kwa mahasla. You see? So as ours was actually an M-Pesa transaction. So we didn't have to complicate. Ours was not complicated, and the structure was very simple. It was just PAP every end month, elfu sita kwa mfuko. But then now the Hustler, with the Hustlers Fund, I have very little to say, because I did not know, I did not campaign under that, and I hope it was just not another campaign promise. During campaigns you can one day to just let me finish. one day to, I'll give you a chance to talk. So ours had a very simple structure. Send elfu sita, 6,000 to vulnerable families and the young people out there who are employed, to just keep them going again and again as they find whatever to do. But then the Hustlers Fund will wait and see the structures and the regulations around it, and we will comply, because it's coming to the people we've campaigned with, because during the campaigns, that's when we saw you can actually move and see how families live out there. And I know this Hustlers Fund will be a very big boost for them.
All right.
Yes.
Let's talk about